A Marine Corps veteran wants to take opportunities from service members. Ivan Snook started a firestorm on social media after he tweeted this. Yeah, just the first sentence, not looking good. Now look, I don't want to take things out of context, okay? I want to have all the information before we make judgments on this individual. So let's reveal the rest of the tweet. It's not looking good. Ivan Snook doesn't like Mustang officers. Well, listen, Ivan, this Mustang officer has something to say to you. For those of you that don't know, Mustang officers are commissioned officers in the United States military that had a career as an enlisted service member prior to commissioning. Mustang officers are much loved and appreciated throughout the Department of Defense, primarily because some leaders that are not Mustangs are seen as out of touch or unempathetic or just assholes. Some of our most prolific service members are proudly Mustangs. Audie Murphy and Chesty Puller, to name just two. They are much loved throughout the United States Army and the Marine Corps. Now look, Mr. Snook, he's doing something that we all conceptually understand, but some people don't have a term for. It's called gatekeeping, and it is a much hated activity throughout our community. Gatekeeping is where one person or a group of people keeps another person or another group of people from doing something. It creates a filter, right? I try and talk about gatekeeping in the most neutral terms possible because gatekeeping is not always bad. We wouldn't want just anybody to go pluck a green beret from clothing and sales, plop it on their head and call themselves an operator. Sometimes you need a filter. Not everybody can do everything. We need filters in order to ensure the quality of certain organizations or groups within the military. Heck, the military itself is gatekept by basic training. Listen though, I'd like to read this tweet to you all in the way that I believe Ivan wrote it. The military should stop giving commissions to any enlisted. Mustangs erode the esteem, the legitimacy, and distinct culture of the officer corps, like merchants marrying into the aristocracy. Nevertheless, we are intent on lowering the standards and reducing military service to just a job, ASAP. Look, Ivan, I'm all for gatekeeping when the need arises, but I'm not for gatekeeping based on the arbitrary opinion of one person who barely did a quarter of a career in the United States military. Ivan spent some time as a Marine Corps 0311, which I believe is an infantryman. And then he spent some time, per his LinkedIn account, as a paralegal in the United States Army. Like I said, gatekeeping doesn't necessarily have to be bad. We do need to gatekeep some things. But when we as a community gatekeep random stuff based on our own opinions that have no basis in fact or anything tangible, that's where things can go awry. Making things harder for people unnecessarily, quite frankly, is ridiculous. And on top of that, many Mustangs have great perspective that serves them well as officers. Now don't get me wrong, I've ran across a few Mustangs that couldn't hang up the stripes. And by stripes, I mean NCO stripes. Oftentimes when I worked with a Mustang that was not great, they usually were a prior service NCO. No hate to my NCO brethren. I spent 5 years as one myself. Taking away opportunities from currently serving service members is not the answer. Doing blanket statements across entire groups of people is ridiculous. You can't categorize thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people based on your limited experience. I couldn't find the original tweet when I went back to look for it, but I did find this. Vet Bros got a big mad. Yeah, Ivan, people get mad when you try and keep them out of opportunities that they would otherwise have in an organization where it's already hard to achieve things. It's already hard to pull yourself up. Quite frankly, I don't think the people getting mad at you are the vet pros here. I think it's you. I think Ivan is the vet pro here. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people that look at commissioning as the next level, achieving something higher. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's nothing wrong with doing a career as an enlisted service member or a warrant officer or commissioning. What I want is for people to go where they want to go. If somebody is where they want to be, where they earned, where they tried to get to, inevitably I think the work is going to be better because they're going to be happy with their placement. They chose the placement. But again, I do not agree with the idea that we should limit an entire group of people, a massive group of people, based on arbitrary opinions. That's dangerous. That is arrogance verging on narcissism. Inevitably, when Mustang officers come up in the conversation, people start talking about how all officers should be Mustangs. All officers should have to serve as enlisted service members prior to commissioning. I don't agree with this, and I'll tell you why. As I mentioned before, some of the Mustang officers I've worked with in the past have not been great. Now, nobody that I directly worked for, it was usually somebody that I had to work alongside. And it all stems from an inability to let the past go, let the enlisted life go. You have a different lane as a commissioned officer. You don't have the same roles and responsibilities as you did when you're an NCO, and it is grating at times. You see certain things, you want to step in, but you need to let the NCOs do their jobs. When you got officer and an NCO trying to fill the role of NCO, there's inevitably friction and frustration among the enlisted service members. I am incredibly grateful for my time as an enlisted service member. Incredibly grateful. It's given me phenomenal perspective now as an officer. And now I get to make new mistakes instead of making the same ones that I did as an NCO. But do I believe that all officers should be Mustangs? Absolutely not. Officers that come straight out of college, they commission straight out of college, bring a fresh perspective, new energy, and knees that actually function properly. I think we need a mix, just like we have now. I also don't think we should make it easier to commission for those who are already in. The process is difficult, and I believe that's gate kept enough. If you want it bad enough, by God, you gotta earn it. But what do you all think? Is Ivan onto something? Should we stop letting enlisted service members commission? I want to hear your thoughts.